Carolina piece. Well, of course, we're a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that is dedicated to educating and organizing and advocating on peace and justice issues. And Congo has been an issue that we've been interested about and curious about. So Fadl and I had a meeting with Maurice a couple months ago, and he really informed us. So we're really happy to have Maurice Carney, Executive Director of the Friends of the Congo, present tonight. The name of the presentation is Congo, the Scramble for her strategic minerals. And I'll let you take it away, Maurice. Thank you so much.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you. Thank you all for inviting us into your space to engage in this dialogue and exchange around a burning question or issue of our time. And that is what's unfolding in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Uh, as David stated, I am Maurice Carney. I'm one of the co-founders of Friends of the Congo. Organization is a Pan-African solidarity institution. I've been organizing for around the Congo for the past 25 years or so, with two overarching aims. One is to raise global consciousness about what's been transpiring in the Congo, and the second, to provide support to local institutions, those that are on the front lines, whether we're talking about the front lines of the conflict in the east of the country or on the front lines of the rainforest in the north or the urban areas in the west, particularly the capital, Kinshasa, or the front lines of the mining communities in the south. And in carrying out those aims, we engage communities such as yours throughout the globe to inform, educate local communities about what's unfolding, with the expectation and hope that we can mobilize support for those frontline organizations that we partner with. So the topic today deals with the scramble for access to critical minerals, which has been at the forefront of the news in the Congo for the past few months. And in order for us to understand why this pursuit of these critical minerals, we're talking about minerals such as coltan, which are important for our cell phones and a range of electronic devices, our laptops, video games our children play, precision instruments and fighter jets and airplanes and instruments in our automobile. We're talking about minerals like copper, which is crucial. We talk about copper wiring in our homes, copper that's needed for power packs and the what you call in wind turbines or solar panels, for the batteries in them, you name it. Cobalt, we're talking about minerals like cobalt, which are indispensable for the rechargeable batteries in our cell phones or laptops, and of recent times, the electric vehicles. And that's in addition to its importance to the military industry and the aerospace industry. Cobalt is a strategic mineral for the United States. So there are a range of minerals that Congo possesses in droves, and that are vital to major global industries. right? Whether we're talking about aerospace, electronics, technology, auto, uh, military, they're minerals that are found in the soil in the Congo that are key. So, in order to understand the centrality of these minerals, it's vital to look just briefly at the history of the Congo, in that it's a country that was designed by Europeans, like most African countries, coming out of the Berlin Conference in 1884 to 85. And it was designed for extractive purposes. For the first 20 something years of its existence, under the ownership, not even of a state, uh, like most colonial outposts, but under the ownership of a king, King Leopold II of Belgium. It was primarily rubber, ivory as well, but rubber that was extracted in order to power the auto industry in the West. And as a result of the extractive process on the part of the King of Belgium, uh, he reigned over Congo for a 23-year period. The population was decimated by half. Uh, Estimated 10 million people perished. So in its original design, right, the blueprint, you have this extractive process powering Western industries at the expense of the masses of Congolese. That's the design. That is the colonial legacy of the Congo. And that blueprint, that design, has not fundamentally changed to this day, right? Fast forward to the 21st century, from 1996 to the present, we see there was a need for coltan and other strategic minerals to power technology industries, power our communications industries, right? And as key minerals were found in the Congo that was extracted, like coltan or copper or tin, we see that Congolese people have perished to the tune of 6 million dead, right? At least from 1996 to about 2007, what the United Nations says the deadliest conflict in the world since World War II. So the bookends, 1885, 1908, estimated 10 million perished, extractive process powering Western industries. 1996 to the present, estimated 6 million dead, extractive process powering global industries. So it hasn't fundamentally changed. In this time, that spectacular wealth that's found in the Congo, Congolese, who didn't design the country, said, okay, we're going to organize ourselves to take control of this country that at the dawn of the 20th century, European geologists called a geological scandal. At the dawn of the 21st century, economists estimate $24 trillion worth of natural resources in its soil, equivalent to the gross domestic product nearly of the United States. So Congolese said, we're going to organize in order to reclaim our land, our resources, our wealth. And they organized successfully to rid themselves of Belgian colonial rule in 1960 through activism, through mobilization that culminated in an election of a prime minister by the name of Patrice Emery Lumumba. And he stated clearly, on behalf of and in the interest of the Congolese people, that we'd like to take control of our land, take control of our wealth, so that we can use it for the benefit of Congolese in particular, and also the benefit of Africans in general. So this didn't sit well with Western powers, the United States and Belgium in particular, but certainly France, Britain, and other nations, because Congo also had a key strategic mineral, still does, called uranium. The same uranium that the United States extracted from the Congo in collaboration with the Belgians during World War II, that was ultimately used in the Manhattan Project that developed the atomic weapons that were dropped on Japan. So with the United States recognizing the strategic minerals that are there that are vital to U.S. strategic interests or national security interests, when Lumumba stepped up and said, hey, we're going to control this for our benefit, for our purposes, then what we saw was the United States mounted, according to its own records, what it called the largest covert action in the world at that time in the 1960s. The State Department released declassified documents or published declassified documents in 2014, subsequently taken up and put into a book by a gentleman by the name of Stuart Reed, who worked for the Council of Foreign Relations, called the Lumumba Plot. So what that represented that the largest covert action in the world to overthrow a democratically elected leader, not fundamentally different from what we saw in Mogadishu, with Mogadishu in Iran, or with Jacobo Arbenz in Guatemala, or Allende in Chile. Lumumba's overthrow and subsequent assassination is in that mold in terms of U.S. pursuing and the West pursuing the strategic interests globally by deposing, overthrowing leaders that it felt was counter to its interests. And then, of course, when it could, installing leaders that would serve its interests, its strategic interests, its national security interests. And that's what was done in the Congo after Lumumba was overthrown. The United States installed and maintained a dictatorship by the name, under the leadership of Joseph Desiré Mobutu for over 3 decades. So this is the colonial legacy of the Congo, an outpost for the extraction of resources for the benefit of the metropole, for the benefit of global industries. And the Congolese people, in the midst of this, these enormous forces that they're fighting against, we're talking about multinational corporations. And today, from Glencore or European, Eurasian Resources Group, or at the bottom of the supply chain, right up to Apple or Tesla or Dell or Microsoft at the top of the supply chain, fighting against multilateral institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. World Bank wrote the mining laws of the Congo coming out of its conflict from 2003, and International Monetary Fund, through its investment corporation wing, invests in mines in the Congo. International Finance Corporation invests in mines in the Congo. Or neighboring countries who serve as proxies for Western interests, like Rwanda and its leader, Paul Kagame, or Uganda and its leader, Yoweri Museveni, who've invaded the Congo twice and have waged a war of aggression and plunder against the Congolese people for 3 decades that accrue to the benefit of Western capitals. And then, you have the local elites in the Congo, the political class, a class that was imposed on the Congolese people dating back to the 1960s, that haven't fundamentally changed since the genuine choice of the Congolese people were taken away from them by the US and Belgium and other Western powers. So the political class is vested in the status quo. So they serve more external interests than their own people's interests. And that kind of makes sense, because those who ascend to power ascend to power with either the backing, the grace, or the support of external forces. So their fate, if they know their history in the Congo, is determined not by the people who elect them, but by the people who finance them, who support them from outside. So you have all of these forces working against the Congolese people as they strive to control their land, control their resources, control their wealth, and ultimately control their own affairs. And this is what we see unfolding today. And we see it in a very stark way, where this war of aggression that's been waged against the Congolese people for 3 decades has peaked. I should say peaked, but it has risen again because there's been ebbs and flows. So there's been an uptick, let's say, over since 2022, and it reached a tipping point in January, the end of January this year, where Rwandan government and its soldiers, they got about 4,000 to 7,000 soldiers in the Congo, according to the United Nations and Western intelligence services. They captured two major cities in the east of the Congo. City called Goma, 2 million people. City called Bukavu, about 1 million people. And they did it in provinces that are resource rich in tin, rich in coltan, rich in wolframite, you name it, right? Key minerals that are vital to the tech industry, the auto industry, the military industry, as I've shared before. With that capturing of these cities in the east and Rwanda capturing territory almost the size of its own country, we see that the Congolese state, which is a neo-colonial state, not fundamentally different from Rwandan. It's a Rwandan state, it's a neo-colonial enterprise as well, but it is weaker than Rwanda. It hasn't been able to mount a robust military offensive to protect its territory. And that's part of the challenge. A weak state leaves the east of the Congo open for control by its stronger neighbors. Now, I don't know the extent to which, you can question the extent to which the political elite in the capital, Kinshasa, that's in the west of the country, is really interested in governing the east of the Congo in any concerted way, right? As I said, the Congo's own elites are part of the problem. So in any case, territory is captured by Rwandan soldiers and what they call a militia group called the M23 that is controlled and commanded by Rwandan military. And as a result of the capture of this territory in the east, mineral-rich territory in the east of the Congo, the president of the Congo reached out to the United States and said, hey, we'd like to enter into a minerals for security deal. That is to say, we give you access to these strategic minerals. At the time, the US was having challenges with Zelensky in Ukraine. I'm sure you all remember the scene in the White House between Zelensky and Donald Trump. And Donald Trump and the Trump administration was saying that, hey, you want greater security, we want access to your minerals. And Zelensky was balking at that. And so the president of the Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, jumped in and said, hey, we got troves of minerals. You want minerals? You can get them if you can provide us with security. Now, I don't know anywhere on the African continent in the history of the United States where it has provided security to any African nation. So I'm not sure what the thinking is of the leadership of the Congo that they're going to get security by providing minerals to the United States. So in any case, as part of the outreach on the part of the Congolese government, we've seen the Trump administration respond positively to the outreach. So they have Donald Trump. He has a special envoy, Mr. Boulos, who's traveled to the region to meet with the leaders of the Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, the current president, and leaders of Rwanda, mainly Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda. And since Boulos's trip to the region, he went there maybe a month and a half ago or so, what has happened is that this instability, the war that the Rwandan government has been waging against the Congolese people, the United States, through its Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is in the midst of peace talks between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And on April 25th, I believe, they both governments, with the support of the United States, signed a declaration of principles, they call it. It was done at the State Department. The foreign minister of Rwanda and the foreign minister of the DRC were brought in to sign this declaration of principles. This declaration of principles is supposed to be a point of departure for arriving at a peace accord, right? And both countries are supposed to submit their proposals, peace proposals, and the U.S. is supposed to facilitate it and provide feedback and bring the forces together. Mind you, there are other peace processes that have been taking place in Qatar, for example. Qatar invited the president of the Congo and the president of Rwanda for talks. They've been hosting talks between the Congolese government and the militia group, the M23. They have economic interests in the region, in Rwanda and in the Congo. Rwanda, in terms of investments in their air industry, airline industry. In the Congo, they have interest in gold. So, in addition to that, you have peace processes headed up by the African Union, which they call the Luanda Accords. Peace process headed up by the East African Community called the Nairobi Accords. And then you have a melding of the two accords with the Southern African Development Community. And even now, the African Union has appointed 5 former presidents to be engaged in peace talks, or to help advance peace efforts. But the one that really counts is the process in Washington. And if you look at the elements of the peace accord so far, the Declaration of Principles that's being shepherded by Washington, you see that certain interests are being served and others are not. And the interests that are being served are Rwanda's interests, because Rwanda has been accused, not only accused, but they've been extracting minerals from the east of the Congo, especially coltan and gold, in order to serve its own interests, its own economic development. And then, so the Declaration of Principles say Rwanda, in short, can get access to those minerals in the east of the Congo. And they can get access to them legally, right? And and as far as the Congolese government is concerned, President Tshisekedi, who's under pressure from the militia groups, it's from opposition forces, because he has lost a substantial portion of his country. He also, through this deal, can protect his own interests and the interests of his political class by staying in power. Because the Congolese military is not able to defend the country. And really, left to their own devices, it wouldn't be surprising to see Rwanda and the M23 advance all the way across the country to Kinshasa and kick Tshisekedi out of power. So he has an interest in staying in power. Now, for the United States, they clearly state their interests. They would like to see some kind of stability in the region in order to open it up for hundreds of millions, billions of dollars of investment, right, to get access to critical minerals. Access to critical minerals that the U.S. feels that China dominates. Not only feel, China dominates that area in terms of control of critical minerals or access to it. 80%, for example, up to 80% of the cobalt mines in the Congo and the copper mines are owned by Chinese companies. So the U.S. Is particularly concerned about access to critical minerals, about getting investors in. And Boulos said as much. Before he arrived to the region, in the region, there's an area in the east of the Congo called Walikale. And Walikale is rich in tin. And the Rwandan soldiers and the M23 militia captured that Walikale around February or March. And as a result of their capture of that area, the one tin mining company, industrial mining, had to shut down. And it just so happened to be an American company called Alphamine. So one of the requests or the demands that was made by Mr. Boulos, President Trump's special envoy to Africa, was for the Rwandan soldiers, M23, to lift their occupation of Walikale. Now, when Walikale was captured, if you follow the markets, tin prices skyrocketed. It's one of the largest tin mines in the world. And by the time Boulos arrived in the region, the M23 and the Rwandan soldiers had withdrawn. And Alphamine was able to start operating again, right? So that gives you an insight into the interests of the United States and how it looks to serve its interests. So the US is looking to broker this deal that will clear the way for US corporations to come in the east of the Congo. And it's really important when we talk about the Congo, we talk about different regions. Because the east of the Congo, there's very little industrial mining. It's an area that has got a multitude of armed groups. And it's an area that both the Rwandan government and the Ugandan government considers to be in their sphere of influence and, for all intents and purposes, under their security and economic control, right? So this is the area that, one of the key areas anyways, that we see the Trump administration focusing on the east of the Congo. It's not the only area. They're also focusing on the south of the Congo. And the south of the Congo is arguably the richest part of the Congo, and it certainly has served as the industrial engine for the Congo itself. That's where you have the uranium, that's where you have the copper, that's where you have the manganese, that's where you have the cobalt, that's where you have the nickel, and that's where you have the bulk of the industrial mines, the overwhelming majority of which are controlled by China. Now, with China exercising such control over that part of the country in what is called the Copper Belt, which is an area that runs from the Congo, south of the Congo, right across the border into Zambia, the United States, along with the Group of Seven Nations, along with the European Union, they mounted what they call the Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, PGII or PGI, Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment. And what this is a response on the part of the West to China's Belt and Road Initiative, right? The West, they're saying that China, through its Belt and Road Initiative, is capturing these resources, not just in the Congo, but throughout the global South. So the West has to respond to that because of, obvious reasons, national security interests, economic interests, you name it. So they say they mounted this Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, where they'll pour in billions of dollars to develop infrastructure in global South countries that would access raw materials and, as they state, would add value locally. Because, one of the challenges in the global South is that colonial legacy, where value is not added locally. The raw materials is extracted out, it's processed elsewhere, and the goods come back as finished products to the people who are sitting on top and living on top of the resources that made these finished products possible in the first place. But they don't have factories, they don't have processing plants in their countries in order to benefit. So this battle with China, the Congo is the testing ground under initiative called the Lobito Corridor. And the Lobito Corridor is a rail line that was rehabilitated that runs from the heart of the mining district in the Congo out to the Lobito port in Angola. And that rail line can get minerals out of the Congo quicker and more efficiently and at less cost than the traditional routes. Traditional routes go through out through Tanzania, Indian Ocean, down south through South Africa, Durban Port, out through Namibia, Walvis Bay. This is a rail line right from the mines to the port, takes you out Lobito Port out of Angola. Some of you, if you're following the news at the end of Biden administration, he went to Angola to oversee what was unfolding in the Lobito corridor. Trump administration, apparently, according to news reports, they're pouring an additional $6 billion in the Lobito to develop the Lobito corridor. So it's all about the transactions. It's all about the money on the part of the Trump administration. And within that context, we see the likes of Bill Gates, Michael Bloomberg, Jeff Bezos. They're investors in a company called Cobalt, K-O-B-O-L-D, Cobalt Metals. And they're in pursuit. They've raised $1 billion so far this year in order to pursue a lithium mine called Manono, which is supposed to be one of the largest mines, a recent find, largest lithium mines in the world. So they're close to sealing a deal to secure access to lithium, a resource that critical mineral that they've been in pursuit of for quite some time. Vanity Fair had run an article on cobalt and the billionaire class where they were really conflicted because they wanted to get into the Congo, but they were concerned about reputational damage or reputational risks because of the child laborers and the like. And they were even exploring going to Greenland to drill for critical minerals. That's why it's not so much of a surprise to see when Trump came in, he started talking about taking over Greenland. And people thought he was crazy, but apparently there are minerals below the ice that they can get access to, critical minerals. So, but right now, this is what's at stake in the Congo, where you even have the likes of Eric Prince, Blackwater owner, who's been in the region for some time, at least 3 years or so now, and offering up his services to the Congolese government. He had shared with the Congolese government he can bring in mercenaries from Latin America in order to combat the Rwandan soldiers and militia, of course, in exchange for minerals. So he's been engaged in the region for some time, and he's, as a part of this overall effort, we see him reappearing again. Don't know to what extent, which role he's going to play, but he's there. So what is missing? Same thing that was missing in 1885, all the way up to today. That's the interest of the people. This Declaration of Principles, this peace agreement, there's no mention of justice in there. 7,000 people were killed just this year alone as a result of the invasion of occupation by Rwanda. No mention, even though the UN Security Council voted unanimously 15-0 in February that Rwandan soldiers need to withdraw from the Congo immediately without any preconditions and cease its support of the M23 militia. But this has seemed to gone under the radar. And that is, say, China, the US, France, European, you name it. They all say that Rwandan soldiers need to get out, right? If we watch the news, you see Rwandan president denying Rwandan soldiers being there. But you have, if you have common sense, you say, okay, there are no Rwandan soldiers in the Congo. Why is there a peace deal with the United States brokering a peace deal between Rwanda and the DRC, right? So that's what the deal is, where we see the interest, U.S. interest being served in terms of I was going to say government interest and corporate interest, but with Trump in the White House, even without Trump in the White House, government interest and corporate interest are pretty much the same. The Rwandan government under Paul Kagame, his interests look to be served in his declarations, principal declarations, that will ultimately supposed to lead to a peace accord where both presidents, President of Rwanda, President of the DRC, are supposed to be coming to the White House sometime in June for a signing of a peace accord. And then, of course, the interests of the Congolese elite is being served. It's people's interests that are not being served. And that's the message that we're carrying and engaging people really throughout the globe to rally behind the Congolese people, rally behind the folks that we work with, the frontline organizers, frontline communities that are clear about their aim and their mission, and that is to regain control of their land, control of their resources, control of their wealth, and ultimately control of their own affairs. So I'll leave it there for that sketch of what's currently happening, and then of course the historic, structural, and systemic factors that are at play and that have been at play historically in the heart of the African continent.
Thank you. Would you be available to take some questions? I don't think he heard you. Would you be able to take some questions?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So we'll kind of bounce back and forth. We'll take a question from the room. Lucia, please go ahead.
I was wondering if the uprisings in the Sahel region, especially in like places like Burkina Faso, have affected the politics of what's going on in the Congo, especially now that they've or when they forcibly ejected a lot of the French economic interests and army and stuff from the area. Has that increased the interest of the West in trying to maintain power in Africa?
In which region did you? I didn't hear the region you mentioned.
The Sahel region.
Okay, the Sahel region. And you're wondering if what's happening there has any impact on what's taking place in the Congo? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Sahel region, you're talking about, at least right now, the Alliance of Sahel States, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, which has suffered the fallout of U.S. and NATO intervention, right? When U.S. and NATO went in to undertake regime change in Libya. And as a result of that regime change operation, it devastated the Sahel region, where weapons and terrorist groups were unleashed on these countries. And the French had gone in to say they're going to fight these terrorists. It was Sarkozy who was at the forefront of the overthrow of the Libyan regime and Muammar Gaddafi. The United States installed its largest drone base in the world. I think they put $100 million into Agadez in Niger to establish a drone base, which would ultimately just supposed to fight terrorist groups. So here it is that you have these nations that are the source of the problem coming in and saying they're going to resolve the issue of the terrorists that they created in the first place, or that they emboldened anyways and created an environment where they could flourish. So you have this instability in the region that was not being resolved by Western powers. And at the same time, you have the West African states who are living in a deep neo-colonial existence, in the sense that, and a lot of them still are, where their monetary policy was controlled, in Paris, in France. And you had movements throughout West Africa who were organizing against France and the CFA the currency, the French franc. So what we've seen in throughout West Africa is this robust popular education, movement building. We saw in 2014, for example, in Burkina Faso itself, one of the chief agent of neocolonialism, Blaise Compaoré, was run out of office by youth and women and the masses of Burkina Bay, the Burkina Faso people. So what we've seen in the region is this popular resistance that has been occurring for some time. The United Nations Development Fund did an extensive study on this. If you go to a website entitled Soldiers and Citizens, soldiersandcitizens.org, I'll type it in the chat later. They give you data on what the popular sentiment and concern on the part of the people throughout West Africa has been. And as a result of these factors, the increase in terror, the pushback against the French and its monetary policy and its former colonies, the mobilization on the part of a range of grassroots organizations in West Africa, running from Senegal all the way down, we see what we have today. Military leaders and they'll say it themselves, they came in on the wave of popular sentiment, right? So even before these military leaders came in, the organizing that was taking place in West Africa was also, it had an impact on the Congo, where young people, let's say from 2012 right through to 2016, 2017, were organizing, and through a Pan-African framework. So they're reaching out to young people in the Congo and elsewhere as a part of that organizing effort. And so when we've seen far greater advances in West Africa, we've seen the masses of Congolese now looking to see what's happening in West Africa among the Alliance of Sahel states, and a certain segment of the Congolese population arguing that that's what's needed in the Congo as well. So it's certainly a factor. Congolese are watching. I'll give you a concrete example. When Michael Langley, testified in the U.S. Congress and made statements about Ibrahim Traore and the gold, he's using gold to serve his own personal interests and for his own security. We saw a global uprising, people throughout Africa and Europe and the Caribbean, and Congo was no exception, where Congolese youth were also rising up and saying, they stand with Ibrahim Traore, they stand with the Alliance of Sahel states. And the Alliance of Sahel states represent the vanguard of a Pan-African movement, at least a state Pan-African movement. And as you know, with Pan-Africanism, it's not just the affairs of one or two states or the grouping of the states, but its aspiration is for unified Africa. So if there's a leading edge of Pan-Africanism in West Africa, then you see Africans throughout the continent and even beyond being affected, and in a way that they support and endorse the efforts. And we see that happening in the Congo as well.
That's that's question. Yes. Erin, would you like to ask your question, or do you want it to just? No, she. So Erin was asking, I'm just curious about what sort of work you've seen around this issue in the West and the United States of America in particular, Have labor unions, students, and activists been making headway in any way? What is the needed?
Thank you for the question, and I'll read the one in the chat from Aaron as well after I respond to this one. Well, we've been organizing for a quarter century, and it's been challenging to say the least. Primarily, in large part, because of the colonial legacy that shrouds the Congo and Africa. Because a key element of the colonial legacy is a colonial prism through which the entire world sees Africa. The colonial prism through which the world sees Africa is as the dark continent, and the Congo in particular represents the heart of darkness, a la Joseph Conrad in his novella. So trying to convince people that what's happening there, what's happening to the people there is happening to human beings who are fully human and not subhuman has been a challenge. Because people believe that what's taking place there is a result of maybe certain atavistic qualities with which these people are imbued, that condemns them to perpetual violence, and there's always been violence and there always will be violence. So there's no need for inquiry. There's no need for no curiosity around, because the preconceived notions that we have of the heart of darkness have already given us all the answers that we need. Now, since October of 2023, what we've seen with this new generation of activists, the Gen Zs and the millennials, is that they look at the genocide unfolding in Palestine that's being committed against the Palestinian people by the Israeli state, and the atrocities therein. They look and they say, well, atrocities are taking place in other places as well. And if you look carefully enough, you see that international finance capital, global elites, the US empire has a hand in it. So what this has done is brought greater attention to the Congo and to some extent Sudan as well. So we've seen incredible interest from young people, particularly those who are part of the Palestinian justice movement. We've seen interest from climate groups. We've seen interest from labor unions. The interesting thing about the Congo is that the Congo sits at the nexus of two dominant phenomena of our time. One is the climate emergency or the climate crisis. And with Congo being a part of the second largest rainforest in the world, it's often referred to as the second lung of the world, behind the Amazon, it has to enter into the discourse. Right? At least you think so anyways. Especially considering that it sequesters more carbon than the Amazon and Borneo combined, right? So you can make the argument that it's the most important carbon sink in the world, the most important space when it comes to combating the climate emergency, especially considering that it's also home to the largest tropical peatlands in the world, which is an area in the Congo basin where sediment is accumulated, foliage is accumulated over thousands of years, and it traps the carbon. That carbon is released. The amount that will be released will be equivalent to about 20 years of pollution comes out of the usage of the burning of fossil fuels in the United States. So it's a sensitive area that demands attention and protection. And at the same time, one of the prescriptions offered up for combating the climate crisis is making this energy transition from the combustion engine to electric vehicle. And in order for the electric vehicles to function, they need rechargeable batteries. Rechargeable batteries function optimally with a mineral called cobalt. And Congo produces 70% of the world's cobalt. So if you add up all of the countries in the world that produce cobalt, they wouldn't equal what Congo produces. So when we talk about combating the climate crisis, facilitating the so-called green energy transition, Congo plays an outsized role. So that brings, it ought to anyways, bring in those who are involved in climate justice work, labor unions. We saw, for example, a collection of climate groups, 350.org and Sierra Club and others collaborated with United Auto Workers when in the wake of the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, where they said, okay, we're moving, this bill has been passed, signed into law. So the transition from combustion engine to electric vehicles is inevitable. How are we going to protect the workers at the top of the supply chain, right? In Detroit in particular. So we see them, climate and labor, unify in the interest of the workers at the top of the green energy transition sector. So the argument we've made to these groups is that there is no top without the bottom. Those diggers in the mines in the Congo are the ones who make these batteries possible by digging up the copper, digging up the cobalt, digging up the nickel. So if you're going to organize around workers, we encourage you to organize around workers throughout the value chain, throughout the supply chain. Those at the top, those at the bottom. And some labor groups and climate groups have responded positively. If I can read that question from Aaron, it says, I'm just curious about what sort of work we've seen around this issue in the West, America in particular, have led. Oh, that's the same question. That's that you somebody else read it. Okay, sorry about that.
Linda, it's a little bit higher in the chat. Do you want me to read it?
No, I just answered it. Is there another one?
Yeah, from Linda. It says, could you tell us about the frontline organizations that you're supporting and what they're doing, particularly in Eastern DRC?
Yes. The bulk of our work is, we call it Share Our Mission, raise global consciousness and mobilize support. Two-pronged mission, raise global consciousness, mobilize support for frontline organizations. So we're working with frontline organizations in the Congo. It's a coalition of organizations, and they're called Basanja, and I'm putting the link in the chat. And Basanja is the coalition is present throughout the Congo, in the north, south, the east, and the west. In the west, in the urban areas, they work with youth and women's groups. In the north, they work with it's indigenous communities. Those are in the rainforest who are fighting to preserve and protect the rainforest. In the south, members of the coalition work with mining communities, particularly small-scale miners who are really trying to defend their interests, trying to protect themselves, trying to benefit from Congo's riches. In the east, they work with those who are on the front lines of the conflict. And local organizations are on the front lines of the conflict, usually mostly working with women and children. Because as the Rwandan soldiers and its M23 militia invades Eastern Congo, in the rural villages, they displace villages. They kill the men, and then the women and children are chased into displacement camps. So they've been working with women and children in displacement camps, providing shelter, providing water, providing food, providing training, in an effort not just to provide humanitarian relief, but also to provide tools to the displaced communities, women and children, so that coming out of the crisis, they can be empowered. And tools that are grounded in what they refer to as agro-liberation principles. And that's the work that the coalition is doing. I'm going to put you can see a GoFundMe in there where the coalition is mobilizing to provide support, especially to the east, for the women and children there. And they are, even in though they're occupied now, they're still continuing to work. They've acquired several plots of land in different parts of the east where they're able to grow food. And really, even in the midst of this crisis, get closer to food security, right? Women are farming, they're producing food for themselves in their protected areas, and also food that they can sell to the local communities. And because of the conflict, we've seen a shortage in water, a shortage in food. The banks have been shut down, no access to cash. There's been skyrocketing in prices for all kinds of goods, and there hasn't been a humanitarian corridor that's been opened up for international organizations to come in and provide support. So the local organizations are on the front lines providing support to their respective communities.
Any questions, comments, more from the floor since? Go ahead. Sure.
Yes. First of all, thank you for your time and that you're taking to educate us on reality. My question is this. A few years ago, a group came from the Congo to Columbia, South Carolina, for that main purpose of educating, enlightening, and allowed us to learn truth. Are you looking to send another group here to Columbia to more or less get a deeper understanding of not only what to do, but how to do it?
Definitely. If you look on the basanja.org website, you see that we've done tours of the U.S. Right now, we're in the midst of a tour in Europe. I was with the coalition in England about 10 days ago or so, and then they moved on to Brussels, and they'll be in Netherlands tomorrow. So we can definitely arrange that. Some of them are likely to be back in the fall. Each year, we organize what we call Congo Week, and some of them may be back for Congo Week, or even for Climate Week in New York in September. So we would love to come through South Carolina. Even in March, one of the members of the coalition was in Atlanta, not too far away from where you are. So it's just a question. We would love to do that. Yes.
Big Congo, you want to say something?
Oh, I'm very sorry. I have also a question. I'm from Congo myself, South Kivu, and I come from Uvira. I cross Lake Tanganyika, Tanzania. So I left Congo since 1996, when the first war started. So my question is, when the war started, we know all of us that Clinton administration in the United States was part of people who arranged all those instability in Congo. And we are informed about that. So the Democrats and as the Western Party government, they knew that system to put Congo in the situation where we are today. So with the Trump administration, the approach is kind of different. So my concern is, what guarantee do you have that if it happens, the Trump administration after 4 years is not in power, that the accord which they are trying to take in June will be there for so long? That is concern. Are you sure the Democrats will not want to, for example, if they come back in power, they will not change that agreement again? Because they want to see Congo the way it is at the moment. you know? Only Trump, and then you can see France is against that. They are against Trump's policy to try to bring stability there. So what guarantee do you have for after maybe if Trump is not there? That's my question.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't think we have to wait for 4 years to make that inquiry. Because even with this, in June, they signed an accord. It's hard to, right now, it's hard to see how that accord is going to result in the administration that the M23 and the Rwandan government are setting up in the Kivus, right? They brought in administrators, civilian administrators, to control those areas, appointing governors and mayors and training civil servants, police, right? So they're in there for the long haul, and the Tshisekedi government certainly doesn't have the wherewithal, the military wherewithal, to dislodge them. And it's hard to see how a peace accord is going to result in their leaving. At best, there'd be some integration. We've seen the opposition in the Congo already arguing for a federated state. Now, if they went down the path of a federated state, that means that an administration, for all intents and purposes, that's being put in place right now, would stay in place with the sanction of, Kinshasa, the capital. At least that's a logical outcome that one can expect. So I think it's problematic. It's hard to see right now, with the weakness of the Congolese leadership and political class, how it, even with a signed agreement, how it is that that's going to fundamentally change the facts on the ground. And the facts on the ground are the Kivus, for all intents and purposes, are controlled by Rwanda and the M23. Even if the agreement says that Rwanda has to respect the territorial integrity of the Congo, it may work out to be that there'll be an administration, and the current administrative apparatus that's being set up will remain intact and be looking towards Rwanda, even if it remains a part of the Congo. The reality may be that economically and otherwise it may be integrated into Rwanda. Reuters published a really good article today. Maybe if I can find it, I'll share it. That laid out how Rwanda is going to be a key beneficiary from this deal, because a part of the proposition is that Congo's minerals would be transported, this time legally, right, not illicitly, to Rwanda, and they'll be refined and processed in Rwanda and then go out. So they leave raw from Congo, process in Rwanda. Rwanda has a better environment for business, and so U.S. corporations will be more open to investing and pouring their dollars into Rwanda as opposed to the Congo. So the whole setup right now is really, if you look at it carefully, from what we see, is to reinforce the status quo. So I don't think we have to necessarily wait for Trump to leave. I'm not sure we're going to experience, unfortunately, the way it's looking anyways, any kind of full sovereignty on the part of Kinshasa, even during the Trump administration.
I got one other question. Okay. Where can we get a copy of the Declaration of Principles as well as other agreements? Because I'd like to have an opportunity to read.
Yeah, maybe I can find the link before I leave. It's on the State Department's website. They have the Declaration of Principles there. the agreements that have been submitted by the Congolese government and being responded to by the Trump administration, that has not been made public. So we haven't seen that yet, but the declaration principles are there. I will see if I can find it before we wrap up. If not, I'll send it via email.
And I know we can definitely connect with Friends of the Congo through their email, info@Friends of the Congo. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, and it seems like Linda just shared it in the group.
Okay, great. And
Yeah.
also info@Carolina Peace if you want to connect with Carolina Peace. Last question for you, Maurice. How can we connect with and support the work of Friends of the Congo?
Just the short answer is to go to freecongo.org, freecongo.org. As soon as you get there, you'll see a number of actions that you can take immediately. You can support the humanitarian efforts on the part of the Basanjo Coalition. You can send a letter to members of Congress about withholding aid to Rwanda. We may have to update that. Where right now we're working with a number of groups to get members of Congress, as this train is moving, to exercise some authority on behalf of or in the interests of Congolese people. So if these deals are going through and it's a fait accompli, then what kind of labor standards or environmental standards or human rights standards can we get members of Congress to demand? Because I think Congress still controls the purse string, you know, right? At least that's like there's a constitutional battle unfolding in the U.S. right now, right? As to who can check whom. So, but we're still pushing on that front. There's a lot of education needed. So, we encourage people to join us in playing a role in doing what you just did, inviting us in to share information about what's happening, why Congo matters, how we're all connected to. Am I going to lose? Oh my goodness! Let me see. Are we all connected to the Congo itself? I'm having challenges with this. One moment. Let me see here. Yes. So how we're all connected to the Congo itself. So those are ways in which you can help by going to freecongo.org to support humanitarian efforts, to join us in putting pressure on members of Congress. And it's not a quixotic undertaking, because in 2012 we mobilized to put pressure on the administration and Congress when Eastern Congo was occupied, and we got some positive results. So that's important. And then this whole education campaign, informing people, sharing the word, spreading the word, that's so key. And if you want to do more than that, there's an opportunity for you to fill out a form to let us know that you can do more. I wanted to take an opportunity to respond to a few of the questions. Is solidarity, what solidarity looks like. Solidarity looks like what you're doing right now. That's on one level, in providing us a platform to speak to your networks with the hope and expectation that you'll be more engaged in supporting frontline organizations like the Basanjo Coalition. Would you recommend boycotting tech or only buying used tech to help reduce demand for minerals such as cobalt? That's a long answer, but we work with a range of, we work with folks in the mining communities, the diggers. That hasn't been one of their demands. And we're not sure that the logical or the result that we think would come out of that is actually what's going to happen. I just say quickly, the current Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, he'd given an interview to the Financial Times in 2008, before he became Secretary General. And he was asked, I guess he brought the Congo up, and he said there in the interview that he said we must not forget that the international community has systematically looted the Congo. He said the international community has systematically looted the Congo. He didn't say one company. He didn't say the tech sector or the auto sector or the jewelry sector or the aerospace or military sector. He said the international community. That's the diagnosis, and we concur with that diagnosis. And then if that's the case, that a country is being systematically looted by the international community, what is the strategic response? What is a systemic response? What's the response to the structural matter of colonialism and now neocolonialism? And we boycotting, I mean, I think you can, use refurbished products, but not if you think it's going to have an impact on the Congo. Use refurbished products if you're tired of being part of, consumer capitalism. If you are fully engaged on a path to degrowth, then you pursue those options. But we don't think those are the options that are going to change the dynamics in the Congo. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Maurice, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Thank
Everybody,
you.
let's thank Maurice.
Thank you.
All right, be well. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Take care.
Really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay now.
Thank you, Tora.